The Accidental Entrepreneur is brought to you with the help of our sponsor, AWeber, the world's leading small business email marketing and automation service provider. Since 1998, AWeber has helped more than 1 million small businesses and entrepreneurs through its suite of web-based email marketing, automation tools, and education. AWeber, the best option when it comes to marketing your business. The podcast is also brought to you by the Alternative Board. Since 1989, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has been one of the leading peer advisory and business coaching organizations for independent business owners and CEOs across the world. By facilitating peer advisory boards, private one-on-one coaching, and strategic planning services, TAB helps business owners improve their businesses in ways that change their lives. And be sure to check out our affiliate sponsor, One of One Productions, the New Jersey-based podcast studio that produces and edits both audio and video podcasts. They sell equipment for the avid podcaster and have even created a guesting kit exclusively for our listeners. And be sure to support the podcast by ordering some logo merchandise from our online store. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services.
So, part of being a leader is sharing the why all the time, right? It's like, I've got this other little philosophy around what I call the 3 leadership things you need to work on this year. You got to become a CPA, and that's not a chartered professional accountant. That's a master in communication, process, and accountability.
Very good.
And from those things, your job as a leader is to communicate the why. Why are we doing this every day?
Yeah.
To all of the people in your team. They need to know with ultimate clarity that any decision that they make revolves around why we do this in our organization. And that's what I call the promise of your organization. And then the accountability part, or the process part, is aligning all those processes, because most people will say, well, I don't trust that person enough to make this happen. So I haven't assigned accountability, which is your biggest issue to free yourself up, is that you got to start assigning accountability, right? Well, I don't trust them to do it.
Yeah, they're not the right people.
The reality of it is if you don't trust the person, why is that person in your business? It's usually they don't trust the process.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. If you are listening on your favorite directory and you can leave us a review, make it 5 stars, please. If you're watching us on YouTube, like us, subscribe, ring the bell, whatever you're going to do. So got another episode coming up, another great, and this is an international show, as everybody knows. So we got another great guest. He's up in Ontario, Canada. We're going to talk about his background. He's also a podcast host, which I love, having podcast guys on the show. So let's get on with things. Everybody will meet Pete in a minute.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work, and they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Beinhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests, where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode.
Hey, it's Pete Mohr from Simplifying Entrepreneurship, and I'm excited to be here with Mitch today on The Accidental Entrepreneur as we discuss all sorts of crazy stuff about being a great entrepreneur.
All right, Pete, so welcome to the show. I told you we were talking off the mic. I always like guys coming on who, get it, and they're helping people to do the things the right way. We can't guarantee their success, right? But increase their chances of success. So you can hear me good, right? I can hear you good. Okay, great. So why don't you introduce yourself first? And let's go into your background and kind of we'll work up to how you got to the journey.
Yeah. Well, it's a long one, but my name's Pete Mohr. Yeah, I run a couple of business. I use the word multipreneur, Mitch. I've always I love that along the road.
It's a trademark there.
Well, yeah, it's just one of those things that along the way I've almost always had a couple of businesses on the go.
Yeah.
And
someone told me portfolio entrepreneur. They're a portfolio entrepreneur. They have a portfolio of businesses.
yeah, so it's been one of those things. And in order to do that, I've sort of crafted these different methodologies and frameworks and things that allow me to operate different businesses at once. And,
Right.
So from that perspective, that's where I spend most of my time these days, is helping other business owners like our listeners here today, all around how to free themselves up from the frustration. And one of my terms that I'm using these days is moving from operator to owner. And
Yeah.
it's
There's
like
a difference.
There is, and it's a big difference, right? And a lot of us get into business accidentally, right? Or even on purpose. And
but not with a lot of planning. We just kind of dive in. Like, oh, we're excited about this. This is great. And I got a garage full of stuff. And you're like, what am I doing?
And so, 1 year goes by, 3 years goes by, 5, 10.
Right.
And you look back and you're like, man, I got into business because I thought I would have more freedom. And I'm still working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. I'm still not doing what I maybe want to do. I'm still not working in another one of my frameworks called the love it zone. I'm still not working in the actual love it zone of the area of the business that I truly love to do, because I'm mired down in making all these decisions in some of these other areas.
And you're still putting in the time that you had to put in at the beginning, but you're still, I always say that if you're, what did you say? Going from an operator to an owner. Mm-hmm. If you're an operator, you're really just an employee of a business that you also happen to own. You're not really the owner.
The interesting the interesting part of that, Mitch, is that there are so many other stresses when you're the owner.
Yeah.
So not only are you operating the thing, you got to worry about payroll, and you got to worry about, cash flow. You got to worry about the next customer. You got to worry about the employee that's unsatisfied. You got to worry about all these other things.
Yep.
And your family and your relationships and your health and all of the other things. The parent
to the business and the parent to the family.
Yeah. And if you are truly just the operator of your business, why don't you get rid of all those things and go operate somebody else's business? Because then you don't have all that extra.
Right. You go home at night, it's not your problem.
We get into business because
we're firefighter, right? Yeah. You don't have to be a firefighter if you don't own the business. Let them fight the fires. Yeah, I agree.
We get into business because
you and me, some people maybe should do that, right?
Yeah. And entrepreneurship's not for everybody.
No, not even close. It's probably not for a lot of people that do it. That's what I say. Yeah.
And so, most of my clients, most of the time that I spend is around that, Mitch. It's around this idea that, people get to a certain point in their business and they're like, there's got to be more than this. And, I used to be a business broker. I've been a retailer. I've been had bathroom renovation company, all sorts of different businesses along the way. Currently, I'm a retailer. We own some shoe stores as well. And, but it's kind of like, hey, listen, as a business, this sort of thought came to me when I was a business broker back several years ago. And it's like, most people want to sell their business because they're fed up with it.
Right.
And my philosophy,
got to get out there done. They can't deal with it, as opposed to preparing for it and having a successul exit.
Yeah. And I mean, you're a lawyer. I'm sure you work with a lot of transitions and stuff like that.
A lot of them.
Yeah. And so as a business broker or as a lawyer or a business coach, it's kind of like, you actually, in order to sell your business is going to be a whole lot more valuable if you're the owner of it, not the operator of it.
Yeah. To the buyer. It's going to be more valuable to the buyer. They see how you've equipped things, you run things, you can transition. Yeah, no question about it.
More valuable to you too. Like you're going to be able to get a higher ticket and a higher multiple for that if it's running by itself.
Right. And you can't do that 30 days before you decide.
Takes time.
You know what? I'm done with this, because you're just worn out.
Yeah. And, so I started thinking about all this sort of stuff. And when I'm working with a lot of clients that are feeling like they may be ready to sell their business, and I talk to them about, hey, we need to set up the process, the people, all of the things in place so that you can earn the right amount of profit. And then you're multiples of the profit, and the people that are going to buy the business come in. When they start doing this and setting their business up to sale, then we're setting all this stuff in place, and often they don't actually want to sell it at the end of that, because they start to begin to say, hey, this can run on itself. I don't need this. I don't need all the stress. I don't need all this stuff. Yeah. And now I'm working in the area of the business that I truly love. So why don't I have it as more of think of it as more of an investment as opposed to a job, and I can keep it.
Right. Well, they're selling for the wrong reasons. They're selling they realize that, or they feel that they just can't deal with this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
but you got to change their perspective. But that's why you take the time as an entrepreneur to work with professionals, to find out what other people, to learn a little bit, and to do things. Look, it's the reason I started the podcast, and it's also one of the frustrations I have as a business attorney is, I'm rescuing people all the time. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like the world's falling apart. People do come to me, and they're good, they're doing the right things. But there are plenty of people that come to me and say they gotta negotiate out of their lease and close their doors, and like, why? And they got no business plan, or they didn't keep with whatever. And it's frustrating. It really, because people can be more successful and they can have better qualities of life and do those kind of things. But I'm sure if we go back, right, you started like everyone else, right? So you were just like, you didn't know, and you started. So what was like in the early days? What was one of the first businesses that you got started with?
Well, I mean, I'm one of those sort of people that came up in an entrepreneurial family. So I cut lawns and I made crafts and did all that kind of stuff, and had little landscaping businesses through school. Right. My first real one, after I finished school, university, was a company called Surface Doctor. And it was a franchise. And we went in and refinished bathtubs and refinished kitchens and all sorts.
Like bath fitter type of
same
thing.
Sort of thing. So, and that was in 1994 and, almost 30 years ago. And I learned all about franchising. I learned all about why I didn't want to be a franchise in that franchise. Right. And we ended up defranchising that business about 5 years in after all kinds of franchisor problems. Long story short is we sold that business in 2009, and it's still going strong today. The person that bought it from me is doing really well with it. It's almost 30 years old. And, they carried on the same sort of process we had in place and have continued to do well. At the same time, I had another cleaning franchise for about 10 years when I had that business as well. And we grew that business from when I took it over 30 customers to about 300 when we sold it. And then I became a business broker, worked with some other people, helping them buy and sell businesses. And then
was there a lot of franchises that you bought and sold?
No, those, like, as a business broker, you mean?
Yeah.
No, it was more independent business. Yeah, there were some franchises involved, but it was more independent business, and bigger ticket than the sort of the lower entry type stuff.
Yeah.
And
it's a little bit off the topic, but I think your comment about franchising. Look, franchising could be a good way to go for somebody who needs a business in a box and so forth. Yeah. But you do have to be cautious, because you're not just buying the business, but you're getting in bed with the franchisor, and you've got to make sure that they're a supportive organization, that there's a reason you're giving them money, that the other people in the system are supportive. So I know some people that have been very successful with their franchise. They'll tell you that they have so much support from other operators and from the franchisor that it really makes their business easy. And then there's other ones that they don't even know who their franchisor is. It's just, and those things are just, you give them money away. So you got to be careful when you get in bed with those things.
And I'll go back to that first one that I bought. The reason I bought that one is because it's what I could afford as a 23-year-old kid.
There you go.
Right? Like that's the amount of money I had. And I'm like, I think I can do this. And so I did it and went into it. And, there's we could talk a couple of other podcasts on how all of the different things that happened there went. But, but at the same time, one of my old next door neighbors owned 6 McDonald's stores, which is an awesome franchise. And they did phenomenally well for 20 some years and as owners, and sold out and did great. So there are true successful franchise stories, and I love those as well. I'm not dissing it by any means, but there's a big difference between certain ones.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Some of these people will sell anything and can get people to buy into anything.
For sure. Yeah.
So, okay. So then you went on to, where were we? You were a business broker.
Yeah. And I ended up pitching.
Particular industries that you were selling, or was it
anything?
All over the place?
Yeah, all over the place. So I worked for a company at the time called Sunbelt Business Brokers, which is one of the large business brokers. And, they were franchised too. And I worked for the franchisee that owned all of Canada in the Ottawa office. And, we helped business owners, and it was interesting stuff. Like, there was manufacturing businesses, there was service businesses, there was retail businesses. And as you can imagine, anybody who owns a business at some day needs to sell that business or close it, however it's going to happen. So we dealt, and we worked through the finances and found appropriate buyers and all kinds of stuff. It was really interesting. And from that perspective, that's how I found the current business that we still own.
The shoe store?
Yeah. So we had, it was, at the time, it was one store. It was called Shoetopia. And I pitched it to a client, and he basically said, there's no way in heck you can get me moved there's no way in heck you can get me and my family to move 4 hours or 5 hours away to some small town in southwestern Ontario. And he's like, I'm from Ottawa. And it's like, yeah, no problem. So, but as business brokers, you really got to dig down and get into the whole business and understand it and go into the numbers and, really truly understand it so that you can actually show it properly. Right. So I had really looked into this business and I'm saying, I think this is a good business. I talked to my wife. We are small town people, and we went and actually acquired that business. And we found that other gentleman another business that it was more apropos for what he was looking for. Right. But it's, business brokerage.
Did you move 4 or 5 hours away?
We did.
Did you relocate your family?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we made the move in 2010. We've owned that business since then. We've added another shoe store. We added a third shoe store. We've since closed that shoe store. I did use a lawyer to help me move out of the lease that we had there. Like years, we didn't talk about this before you came on, but my lawyer helped me through a bad lease that we had, and that came out as successful as we could make it come out for all parties involved. And so have I lived and learned some of that stuff along the way? You bet. And when I'm talking to my clients, with all the different industries that I coach to, it's really interesting because we'll use some of those experiences. And it's like, hey, listen, you should look at this and you should look at this and all the different experiences along the way. Because there's been a lot,
Yeah. So you don't do as much brokerage now?
I don't do any anymore. Yeah.
Oh, you don't do any?
Yeah, I'm not licensed anymore.
Coaching, podcasting, the business.
Yeah. So right now it's we have the shoe stores, and then I spend most of my.
How many locations do you have?
Just two.
Stores right now?
Yeah,
just two.
Two locations, and then I spend most of my time with Simplifying Entrepreneurship, which is my coaching business, and I go speaking, for a variety of different associations. And I was literally on a call this morning with a group of people in one of this buying group association that I coach groups of people, or I coach one-on-one as well, and so that's where I spend most of my time these days.
And with the shoe store, you have a manager and a person, a buyer. You're not going to Italy and buying shoes. Right?
No, but I mean, yes, we can do that sort of stuff, and that's part of from depending on what areas you want to do. But I coach based on the fact that you don't have to make. Here's one of my other lines that I use a lot, Mitch, which is decisions should be made at the lowest possible level of your organization, right? And if that's the case, I shouldn't be involved, and I'm not involved in making all of the buying choices for our stores anymore. Right. So I have a buyer, and he's accountable. And so, I mean, from a owner perspective, I'm involved, and it's like, hey, we talk about some strategies around that stuff and everything. But when it comes down to placing those orders in Italy or in the States or in Canada, wherever they are, it doesn't really matter. He's the one who's accountable. And so I work in my shoe stores now about a day a week on average. And the rest of the time we have set up a great accountability chart. I have awesome people in place that really help me and make the goals happen that we have set out as a buying group or as a management team to happen for Shoetopia, right? And that's, I mean, it's hard for me to coach that stuff if I'm not actually living it, right?
No, I agree with you. And even if it's a small business, look, Jeff Bezos definitely isn't buying product to fill a warehouse.
No.
Figuring out what kind, and that would be ridiculous. It would be a terrible use of his time. And I think people don't value the time that they have and the use of what they're doing. If you're trying to build a business, you got to pretend like you're at the top of the pyramid, and people are going to rely on you, and you're going to empower people. Men, look, that's why there's leadership coaching, and leadership's a difficult thing too. Being a leader and empowering people and not just ordering them around, and that's a problem. It's something that people need to. It's a learned skill. Right. But some people struggle with it. They just have trouble communicating. They order people around. Nobody likes to be told what to do. No. People like to be empowered so they'll do it on their own and feel good about what they're doing. But they certainly don't. That's the way we're doing it. And Pete, I don't want to hear about it. You do it that way. And you're like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever, So,
part of being a leader is sharing the why all the time. Right. It's like, I've got this other little philosophy around what I call the 3 leadership things you need to work on this year. You got to become a CPA, and that's not a chartered professional accountant. That's a master in communication, process, and accountability.
Very good.
And from those things, I mean, your job as a leader is to communicate the why. Why are we doing this every day?
Yeah.
To all of the people in your team. They need to know with ultimate clarity that any decision that they make revolves around why we do this in our organization. And that's what I call the promise of your organization. And then the accountability part, or the process part, is aligning all those processes, because most people will say, well, I don't trust that person enough to make this happen. So I haven't assigned accountability, which is your biggest issue to free yourself up, is that you got to start assigning accountability, right? Well, I don't trust them to do it.
Yeah, they're not the right people.
The reality of it is if you don't trust the person, why is that person in your business? It's usually they don't trust the process.
Yeah.
And
you got to let people, fly out of the nest a little bit. Make sure, trust that people can figure it out. If you have good people working for you, give them an opportunity to fly,
Yeah.
Or like you said, get rid of them.
Yeah. And so we often as leaders say, oh, I just don't trust that person. But, and I encourage anybody listening here is it the person you don't trust, or is it the process you don't trust?
Right.
And usually
if you really don't trust the person, then don't keep them. But if it's really just the process, and you do like them and you do believe in them and they buy into your vision, hopefully, then you're 100% right.
Yeah, we got to tweak process in order so that it's at a point where you can then align it and assign it to them, and have trust in the process and have trust in them to be held accountable to make this happen.
Okay, so we're going to get into, for lack of a better term, how to simplify entrepreneurship and make things simple, maybe after the break. But we got another, little while. But you obviously don't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to coach people. Something must have happened where somebody said, hey, Pete, I see you're successful. Would you talk to me about it? So you can tell me about that process, how that came about into the coaching world?
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to go with that now or after the break?
Hear about it now.
Cool.
No, and we'll do the break later.
Cool. Basically, I have been essentially coaching people all my life. It's just part of my nature. My mom's a teacher, and I kind of grew up in that sort of area where it's like
for free though, for a long time.
Yeah, for sure, and happily, by the way. Happily,
right, of course.
I want people to succeed. I have a general, mantra of I want to share my experiences so that others don't go through the bad stuff, and so that others can take advantage of the good stuff.
Right.
And,
no question.
And they can do what they want with it and set up their own action steps. But, my philosophy is that I've got sort of an overarching idea here, Mitch, that entrepreneurs, business owners, are the true backbones of their society. They're the ones, they're the little league coaches.
Yeah, they drive commerce, right?
Yeah. They're the ones that give back. They're, like I said, they're the little league coaches. They're the ones that are usually in charge of fundraising for the local hospital or the church steeple or the new playground down the road. It's interesting when you start digging into the foundations of these things on how much entrepreneurs and business owners are involved as being the leaders in their communities. So my philosophy is that
makes sense.
Yeah. If I can help them set up to have either more time or more money through the frameworks that I provide with Simplifying Entrepreneurship, so that they will give back more time and more money to their particular community. And when in doing that, it's sort of like, this is my big sort of philosophy, is that somehow in way I've helped that little community, because I helped that entrepreneur either get back more time and get back more money, or give them more money so that they can then turn it back, because they do. Most of the plaques that you see for anything that's been built, those are entrepreneurs that have given that money.
Most of them, yep.
I'm not saying all, but most of them are. And if you look at almost all the charitable foundations, almost all of the things where people are volunteering their time, a lot of those are entrepreneurs.
Of course, especially nowadays. Yeah.
So absolutely. I want to give more freedom to the entrepreneurs so that they can have more time and do what they truly love, or to give back to their communities, whatever the case is, and as well as help them make more money. So that's sort of the overarching reason why I've kind of made a business out of this, as opposed to just doing it for my buds and all that kind of stuff along the way.
Of course.
Yeah.
So tell me about the development. You obviously you're helping people. And then at some point you start developing processes, you start seeing trends. How'd you build that? Because that's a business, right?
Yeah, it is.
How did you start building that business?
Well, 3 or so years ago, you could find me on the internet. Let's say if you typed in, you'd see some Shoetopia stuff and you'd see some other stuff that I've done in the past. But, I have this, in order to be a business coach and have a certain amount of authority, that's why I started podcasting, Mitch, so that I could build some authority. Right. And
right, absolutely.
I had a mission to get out and do 30 podcast guestings within a 3-month period. I wanted to be on 10 podcasts a month. And I ended up being on 60 over 3 months because I just made it a priority. I've been on, this is a couple of years ago, but I've been on probably over 150 podcasts as a guest now and have released, give or take 100 or so episodes of the Business Owner Breakthrough, which is my podcast. And, from that perspective, it's built authority. So you can easily find me on the internet now. And, so that's one of the things working. And it's been hard because I really launched this business just before COVID and I wanted to do more stage presentations and public speaking and a lot of that sort of stuff. So I did that virtually, and I still work with all sorts of mastermind groups and different groups virtually, but I'm starting to get on stages a little bit more now too, which is fun. I've got a bunch of different stuff lined up for this year. And so that's one of the pieces of the puzzle. I've written over probably 100 different articles in the last few years. So I'm actively getting myself out there as being an authority in small business, which, like we said from the beginning, I've been at it for almost 30 years now and have been through a lot of different things. And one of the things that's always bothered me about any profession is that people that sort of hang their shingle and don't actually do what they are teaching or don't have any experience in what they're sort of coaching. So
that's always a problem, right?
It's a big problem.
Everyone can be a coach, but you need some some background.
It's a big problem in this industry, Mitch. There's a lot of business coaches out there that have never really owned any business other than their business coaching business.
Right.
And so, it's just like, well, you can teach a framework then, but it's hard to kind of come up with all of the analogies and stories and personal experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I think that's kind of where things came into play. And because of my passion for sort of sharing all of this stuff and wanting others to do well, I talked a little bit about another framework I have called your Love It Zone. And this is my Love It Zone, Mitch. Man, I love talking to people like you. I love talking to business owners.
Yeah, me too.
I love digging through their problems and saying, hey, what if we looked at this way? Or what if we, let's dig into this and see what we can do to solve this problem. And to me, that's engaging, energizing, and exciting.
Yeah.
So
did you find that people make things more complicated than they need to be? Is that why your approach is like, hey, let's make it not as overwhelming and simplified?
Yeah,
Is that you're finding that to be the case?
The business is called Simplifying Entrepreneurship because
for a reason.
And it often is easier than it appears.
Right.
And it's interesting, right? So let's just take this, whatever you're dealing with, and sort of come out of the immediacy of it and look at it from a higher level and look down at it and pick this thing apart so that we can set up the right process, assign the right people. And sometimes that's involving getting outsourced partners to come in and help out, or maybe it's somebody within the team that's going to take on a different accountability, whatever the case is. But let's set this thing up so that you don't feel so frustrated. And I have all these little sayings, but I say, let's move you from being frustrated to being free, right? Turning your frustrations into freedom is a big piece of what I'm trying to do. And anytime I'm thinking about these different things, when we talk about this and explore this in any of the meetings that I'm on, whether they're group or one-on-one, it's really like, how can we get rid of this frustration, set up the right process so that this happens auto-magically in the future and you don't have to worry about it.
Another Peteism.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that one's actually that one's actually from my friend Ari Meisel, who's a real process master. He's pretty good.
Give him credit. You probably write a dictionary at some point, the Entrepreneur's Dictionary. You can have all these different terms from you and colleagues and things like that. All right. Well, why don't we take like a 2-minute break? I got to, the sponsors pay me a little bit of money, so I got to give them some credit. And then maybe we can get into advice. How do you simplify your business? What are things? I know you have a process. We don't want to give away the store, but give some people some usable things they can take away from our discussion that they maybe can go out and start having a little bit different perspective on what it is they do on a daily basis. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go to the commercials then. Here's a word from our sponsors. Looking to market and grow your business? Or perhaps you're just getting started and want to hit the ground running? AWeber is the best choice for online email marketing and automation of your business. From maintaining a subscriber list to drip campaigns and landing pages, AWeber gives you tools and integrations that make marketing easy and fun. As our partner and sponsor, we use all their tools to promote the podcast and market our law firm. AWeber, the best alternative for online marketing. For over 30 years, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has built a thriving community of forward-thinking CEOs and business owners who want to radically improve their companies. Through unique combinations of one-on-one business coaching, participation in monthly TAB board meetings with other non-competing owners, a suite of strategic tools, and customized strategic planning workshops, TAB membership can deliver greater strength to your business and a better work-life balance for you and your family. All packaged in a streamlined and affordable service that the people at TAB invite you to try risk-free. Maybe you're looking to get into podcasting, or you just want to market your business. Maybe you want to do it for enjoyment, or because you have a message you want to get out there. One of One Productions is a New Jersey-based studio just over the George Washington Bridge that caters to the booming business of podcasting. They offer a comfortable atmosphere using the latest technology available to record your podcast. And they are a full-service media company offering both audio and video production services, creating both audio and video podcasts, as well as video shorts for business and personal use. Professional audio equipment packages are available through their website for all budgets. And be sure to check out their podcast guesting kit, created especially for our listeners. Follow the link in the show notes to learn more about all of our sponsors. And now back to our show. All right, we're back. You could hear that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right. So let's get into, some advice for people. You've been doing this now several years. Mm-hmm. You've been in business for much longer than that.
Yeah.
What is simplifying entrepreneurship, and how do we simplify it?
Well, I think the biggest thing, Mitch, that I see out there is that people don't actually give themselves time to think about their business.
Right. Because they're firemen.
Yeah.
They're fired people. They come in and they just put out fires all day and they
every day
finish the day exhausted. Right.
Right. So, going back to the love it or leave it framework, I think is interesting because, like you said, with you finish the day exhausted. So here's something that I encourage everybody to listen to, or everybody who's listening here to think about.
Okay.
Are you coming home at the end of the day feeling that way? Feeling exhausted? At the end of the day, when you walk through the door at home, or if you work at home, when you kind of close the office, are you feeling mentally and physically drained? Are you feeling as though, that was like a hard, long day?
Yeah.
And if you are, you've got work to do. Because one of the other things I mentioned was I love having these conversations, right? So I'm working in my love it zone every day. And I want that for everybody that I work for too. Because at the end of a 10 or 12 hour day, if you feel as though, man, that was an awesome day and I love what I do, it's such a different feeling than coming home at the end of a 10 or 12 hour day and going, whew, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to, I think I'm going to bed.
Right. Break out the bourbon.
Yeah.
Well, I love bourbon, but not for the wrong reason.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm with you. So I'm a whiskey drinker here, like Canadian whiskey, rye whiskey, but I like bourbon too.
No, rye. I'm into rye too.
Yeah. So
you're right. You get home and it's like a commercial. Feeling down from work? Try our new bourbon. That's what it is. But yeah, people look. I feel the same way sometimes too. I am big organizer. I got lists. I program things on my schedule because if I don't do it, your whole day gets taken away from you within an hour or half an hour being in the office or wherever your business is,
If you don't structure your time, somebody else will for you.
Yeah, right. Exactly. They'll make the rules and they want you. It's funny. My father, he passed away in December, and it's hard because I get a lot of advice from him. I've always gotten a lot of guidance from him over the years. He's been a salesman since 1965 in the insurance business. So he grew up in a world that was a little bit different than it is now. And he always used to tell me that on like Mondays, for example, he wouldn't come into the office too early because he knew that whatever happened over the weekend, his staff would probably solve most of the problems by, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So he'd make a lunch meeting, go to lunch and get in the office. And it was most of it. And it was true. 90% of it was dealt with. And sometimes that's a good thing. Like throw your staff into the fire, let them deal with it and see how it goes. You don't have to do everything yourself.
Yeah. So like we said earlier, decisions should be made at the lowest possible level of the organization. Like your dad didn't need to be involved in those decisions.
Right. He's like, why am I dealing with this? Right.
And he found his own little process to solve that. And I'll give everybody here listening one other process to solve that I often will talk about. If somebody's coming to you, and here's another sort of line that comes up. If you ask yourself this question, why don't they just make this decision? They should already know how to do that.
Right.
Like if you're asking yourself that question when one of your team is talking to you, then here's what you say back to them. If I wasn't here, what would you do?
Yeah, because it's a problem if you're thinking that. And so if they say, I don't know, then maybe that tells you something, right?
Right. And so, and here's where uncomfortable silence comes into play, right? So it's like, okay, so if I wasn't here, like if I was in Italy or if I was, on
the moon,
you're whatever,
totally unavailable.
What would you do?
Yeah.
And sit in uncomfortable silence until they respond.
Yeah.
And
people are very afraid of that. They really have trouble keeping quiet.
I know.
Like the biggest thing. But you're at a fishing camp in upstate Canada, in Ontario, and there's no cell service and they can't get a hold of you. What are they going to do? They can just shut the doors and go home for the day? No.
Right.
Figure it out.
Right. And it usually has to do with the fact that you've properly communicated the why of the business, the promise, like I talked about in setting up the guiding principles of your business and all of that kind of stuff. But if they go back up that sort of level to that level and they say, okay, well, we always do it this way because this is our why, then the decision should be made without you. And it becomes a coaching moment. As the leader of that business or as the leader of that person, if they're your direct charge, then it becomes a coaching moment. And you're like, you know what? That's exactly how I would have dealt with it. Congratulations. And move on and deal with it that way. That sounds great. Or if there's opportunity there and you're saying, okay, well, we do need to tweak this example. And that's where you fix the process. Remember, you got to trust the person and trust the process, right? So if we need to tweak the process, we tweak the process so that any time this comes up in the future, it's done. And that's the way you're removing some of these frustrations and answering. So you, the listener, next time somebody that comes to mind and you're like, oh gosh, man, why don't they just they should know how to make this decision. Right. That's the question that you ask them. You answer the question with a question.
Yeah.
What would you do if I wasn't here?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I find, or maybe a better way to say it is, do you find that a lot of business owners, as they start to give away things, they have like one person who's maybe been with them for a long time, and they start offloading, because you said you give it to the lowest person, the lowest common denominator, lowest on the totem pole. But they have this person that's been with them from the beginning, and they start making them into themselves. So they start unloading everything on this one person, become so reliant on this person, they're probably not even doing their job effectively because they have so many hats. Yeah. And they get to the point where if this person leaves, they are totally screwed. So I think I had a colleague of mine or something where they literally told this one person who was like handling all this stuff, saying, listen, we're going to pay you, but you're going to take like a month off, or was it 2 or 3 weeks? And we're going to see if we can handle everything without you. And they discovered some holes and some things they didn't know, but they started realizing that this person doesn't need to be the jack of all trades. They can be the president, or they can be the office administrator, and they don't have to do everything, and it kind of solved the bottleneck. Do you find that that's a common problem that business owners face if they're starting to offload things but they don't do it properly?
For sure. And that's, I've got a structure called the 5 Ps. And the 5 Ps, we've talked a little bit about a couple of them already, but just to give you an outline of the 5 Ps.
Again.
Yeah. So the 5 Ps essentially are these. Your promise, you got to have your promise down pat, right?
Okay.
And then you have to align your products, your process, and your people to that promise so that you can have the right amount of profit, which is the end result of what we're looking for in business, unless you're not for profit, right? But profit can be looked at in different ways. If you want, like it could be looked at, you want more time or you want more, whatever it is. It doesn't always have to align with dollars, but with those kind of things, the guiding principle is, what is your promise? What's the promise you're making to your clients? So that everything underneath it aligns. And through COVID and through all these different things that we've had over the last, as the world is changing here crazy over the last few years, sometimes people that have been at it, especially for a while now, they've had a promise for a long time, but that promise doesn't necessarily align to how their particular clients want things to align to anymore.
Right. Do you think that's just a lack of paying attention to?
It's yes, to a certain degree, but it's also like people get habitualized into how they deliver their products and services, and they don't
just do it the same way all the time.
Right. And because they're in the fires of putting out all of the stuff every day, they don't take that step to go back and kind of look at things as an overarching sort of, is this the way forth, and think about the future of what's going on. And a lot of business owners just don't give themselves time, like specific time to do that.
Right. Like asking the big questions, why do my clients buy this service or product, and what they do? And the good ones that I work with do it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't do it and start their business and then they keep doing it because it changes. And 9 times out of 10, what they thought was the reason that the people motivates the customer is not the reason. Just because you think it's a great idea and that I would do this does not mean that everybody who walks through your door is going to feel the same way. Most of them probably do not. And I think that's a big shortcoming. And the ones that are successful that I know, they do. They don't ask 5, they don't ask 10, they ask 50, they ask 100. They're always asking their customers, how can we improve this? Why did you buy this? What would be an additional service you would buy and why? And then you can make better, from the top, right? Yeah. Better strategic decisions when it comes to how you grow your business and the services you add and your product offering or, whatever it happens to be. And that, I agree with you. That's how it has to be aligned for you to be successful, because you're not going to get from the first P to the 5th P if it's not, if it's not flowing through all the people. And
you're not.
I mean, that's basically a business plan, right? If you took all those P's and you made it into 5 parts, you would basically have a strategic plan that you could work and follow through, right? Which is probably what you do with your clients, I would guess.
It's a big piece. I mean, taking that and overlaying that framework onto whatever existing business or a new business is a big piece for sure. We've got 1,000 other frameworks that we can
of course
use, but that's a guiding principle one. And because you want those people in your organization to be making the right decisions around your products, around your services, around your process, and around your people. And I like to really think of people in 3 different ways. And those 3 ways essentially are these. The first way is that you have your ideal client. Number 2 is that you have your ideal team members. And number 3 is that you have your ideal outsource suppliers, like anybody else who's involved in making your promise happen.
Employee. Right.
No,
I love the ideal.
There's usually work to do on each of those. Sometimes we need to tweak who our ideal client is as business carries on.
Choice, right? Your ideal client is who you want to do business with, not who you have to do business with. Absolutely. But I think about it. Do you feel that way?
Sorry, Mitch, you're breaking up a little bit there.
Oh, do you hear me now?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, the video will correct us later on. Don't worry about it. What I was saying was I find that people, they think that there's people they have to do business with as opposed to the ideal profile of who I want to do business with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes, especially on startup, we feel that we have to take the next dollar. And sometimes we do. Like we got to make payroll, we got to make our rent and
Right.
stuff like that. But as you hone these processes and as you get more clear on your promise and you get more clear on the different things that you want to do, then it can really become an idea around you're picking your client. And it's you picking the client as opposed to the client picking you. And that's when.
Right.
That's when business gets fun because you're really starting to zone in on your ideal client and what you can do to help them through their issues and they're willing to pay for that.
Yeah, I think people don't realize that refining that process and honing that down and niching down with what you offer actually increases your quality of life, right? You're happier with what you do. You're doing business with people you like and you understand and you relate to. But it also, in the long run, in most cases, increases your profit. It doesn't reduce your profit because you're like pushing all these people off of the table. That's not what's happening. It's actually that you're becoming a specialist. You're focusing and you're putting your energies in the right place and you're spending your money the right way and you have the right people and they all buy into your vision and your profits go up. And people miss that all the time. And that's consistent. Did you lose me? You can't hear me?
I'm having a real hard time hearing you, Mitch.
Okay, I can hear you. It must be your connection on your end.
I've got I got all my bars on.
Yeah, I'm on a hard connection. That's how I know I don't have a bar problem. But so it must be maybe Comcast just cut your line outside or something. We had that last week. So can you hear me now?
I got you now.
Okay. Yeah, it must be an internet thing.
It's just your it says recording continued smoothly. Live video will return when their internet improves, and that's what it's saying on your side.
Yeah, no, I'm on a hard connection. It's weird.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know why. Yeah, are you on a hard connection? Plug in.
Yeah, man.
Did you come back now?
Again?
Huh. I could see you this whole time. I could see you. I can hear you. No problems on my end.
Okay. Yeah.
But let's talk about
how do you want to take this, Mitch? I mean, you're really just coming in and out all the time.
Yeah. Well, you can't hear me. Can you hear me now, Pete? Let me double check. Are you over here?
I got you now, I think.
You got me now? Yeah, I can hear you the whole time. No. I haven't lost your video. I haven't lost your internet. You're clear on my end. That's weird. So you can't hear me right now?
I just got you. Can you hear me right now?
Yeah, but it's breaking up?
Yep, I got you right now.
Okay, so now I'm back? Or no? I think you have an internet again. Side. Yeah. Hold on a second.
I don't know. Like I said, I've got just on my side, it literally says Mitch enabled low data mode. Everyone's still recording in high quality, but it's saying on my little panel beside your picture, because I use Riverside too. I get it, right. But it's saying that it's your internet is causing issues here.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't have any messages on my side. Can you see me now?
I've got your video back now all of a sudden.
Okay. I clicked around a couple things. Yeah. Has my video been clear the whole time? No, he can't hear me. If I turn this to low data mode, now you can't see me?
Now I can't see you, no.
But you can hear me?
A little better than before.
Yeah, that's weird. I have had no problems on my end. I've heard you the whole time. I hear you talking to me. I hear you when you can't hear me.
Well, I can actually hear you right now, so we can carry on if we want.
We can try and go back to video in a minute. But I was saying before about when people don't realize when they niche down, when they focus on their ideal client, that they I believe your video, by the way, will still come back when we release this.
That's the beauty of Riverside, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Riverside, right. That they actually increase their profits, right, as a result of niching down and being specific about who you do business with, and improves their life, which is your goal, to make their life better and have them enjoy what it is that they're doing.
I mean, that's why we get into business, right? We get into
Yeah.
business because we have the dreams of a better life. And, you may have come into business accidentally. You may have been forced into business, or you may have chosen to go the business route along the way. But whatever reason, think back to when you started your business and think back to the reasons why you said, you know what, maybe being a business owner is for me. And think back to all of those things that you dreamed about as to why it was for you and why you made the decision to become a business owner. Typically, it's around the freedoms. And those freedoms are, I want my time. I want to be able to make my own choices. I want to have the ability to, it doesn't matter because the freedoms are uniquely yours. I mean, maybe you would like to travel. Maybe you want to work remotely. Maybe like all of these different things. Maybe I want to employ my family. Maybe I don't want to employ my family. I mean, all of these different things are uniquely yours. But if you think back to that and the reason you got into business in the first place, and if you aren't living those freedoms yet, then that's where we need to set the business up in order to provide you with more of those freedoms. And that, like you said earlier on, it may not come quickly. It may take some time, and that's fine. But if you're doing it with the purpose of, I want to take a 2-week vacation, or I want to take a month off. And I mean, I just enjoyed a month off in Florida for the month of March. And that was by purpose. I mean, we set that up. And I couldn't have done that if I didn't have the right process in place, the right people in place, the right profit in order to do that, all of these different things. But it's on purpose that I did that because that's one of the freedoms that I wanted from my business. Right.
Now, is part of your process you help people kind of create their strategic plan or their business plan, even if it's a one-page type of a of a thing?
I almost always start with sort of what's the goal here for your life, because when you're a business owner, being a business owner in your life is sort of yin and yang, and we want to make sure that there's the whole framework around whether you're giving yourself enough time and everything. And I'm a believer really on the idea that there are seasons of business where you just have to put up and shut up and get it done. And there are seasons where, we're in tax time for a lot of accountants right now. So it's like, they have to get it done now. Like, take some time off in September. Don't take it off now. So, I mean, you have to understand the ebbs and flows. And where I find a lot of business owners live is that there are no ebbs and flows. It's just like full on all the time.
Right.
And that's a problem.
And that you got to set that up yourself, right? I mean, you got to control your schedule a little bit.
So we kind of rewind to the big picture as to what you want out of your life, what you want out of your health, your wealth, your relationships, all of those different things. And then we come back in and start saying, okay, let's build the process of your business, using your business to actually start delivering this to you based on your priority of what you need. And, one of the ones that I have on the top end of my thing is that I want to remain and be healthy mentally, healthy physically. And I'm not, I don't have the 6-pack abs, and I'm not like super built dude or anything like that. But the idea here is that I want to remain healthy mentally and physically, because if I'm not healthy, I can't run a healthy business.
Right. Yeah, right. You can't take care of your family if you're not healthy. You can't take care of your business if you're not healthy.
I'm not making healthy decisions. I can't be physically healthy in my businesses. I mean, like, if you're suffering from anxiety, and you're suffering from stress, and you're suffering from like not eating properly, and you're suffering from, all of these things, bad relationships at home and all this stuff, all of these different things come into play on how your business is operating.
Yeah. How can you make good decisions even with your business? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Pete, have you ever coached and worked with somebody and the conclusion was they shouldn't stay in their own business and they should go get a job and not be an entrepreneur anymore?
I just did.
Yeah. You did?
Yeah. Which,
like it was not going to work, huh?
I don't tip. Usually most of my clients, they're in a position where they're actually doing fairly well. And what they want really is they want their life back. They want to start actually living and not just pounding through the management, which is why we say from operator to owner, right? And and so a lot of the people I work with are sort of in that zone. This one particular person that I worked with, his business just wasn't going to fly at the end of the day. He was sort of in the position that it was sort of let's call it a last stop to see if things were, if we could make some changes and stuff like that. But ultimately, after working with the person, understanding their business a little bit, he came to the conclusion that it was time to, and these are the strategic things that we need to think about, right?
Right.
I've closed businesses in the past. I've opened businesses. I've sold businesses, and these are big decisions along the way. And the problem is that if you don't have anybody to talk to, who do you talk to about stuff like that, right? Like typically your partner at home, your wife, your husband, your partner, whatever the case is, doesn't want to hear about it anymore. Your friends, if they aren't business owners, probably don't know what the heck you're talking about.
Right.
And your team at work don't necessarily want to tell you their true opinion all the time, even though you have an open door policy, because you're paying them. And there's ultimately some sort of repercussion potentially if you don't like what they say, that they feel that their job may be in jeopardy. So they're not always fully open. Yeah.
Right.
So as much as most entrepreneurs want to have an open sort of relationship and feel, when you do trust your team that they're going to tell you stuff and everything, they're not always fully open with that. So who do you talk to?
No.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, that's why I'm also a big advocate of having an advisory board, having, mentors, people that are in your business who understand you can give advice to, they can give advice to you. That TAB is our sponsor, the alternative board. And that's what it is. It's it's about having those people in your business. Yeah. Because you can only serve so much of a role as their coach, which kind of becomes partially their therapist, I'm sure.
To a certain degree.
And people should, because you got to get somebody who has your own perspective, who deals with their own problems. A lot of people, they mean well in your life, your friends, your family, but a lot of times they're out of protection for you and cautiousness in their own life. They reflect that back to you about things you shouldn't be doing, or I wouldn't do that, or why are you doing that, type of a thing. And that they end up not intentionally, but they give you bad advice because they're just trying to protect you, maybe psychologically, maybe subconsciously, but they're doing it,
Yeah, sometimes they just want to tell you what they think you want to hear.
Right. That's common too. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they don't really understand what you're going through. So you got to be careful. Well, Pete, I thank you very much for sharing your ideas. If people want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that? We'll put in the show notes, but let people know how to reach you.
Yeah, sure. So simplifyingentrepreneurship.com. My business is called Simplifying Entrepreneurship. If you want to talk to me directly about how I can help you, just go to speaktopete.com. That's speaktopete.com, and book in a quick chat with me. And I can tell you a little bit more about our policy, or all the different things that we do, and whether or not we have the right program that fits with you. And, the beautiful thing here is that I really don't need to do this kind of work, Mitch. I do it because I love it. Right. Yeah. And I really only, and I've told people that I don't think you're the right fit for me as far as coaching or any of the programs that we have. And, maybe you should try this person or that person, and along the way, because I want the business owners to find the right person that's right for them, so that they can get through their problems, turn their frustrations into freedoms, move from operator to owner. And, that's sort of my gift to you, is that if I'm not the right one, then I will do everything I can to find you the right one, so that it's going to move you ahead. Yeah, for sure.
Even a little bit of a lawyer, I tell people that. Well, first thing we should figure out is if you want to work with me, if I want to work with you, if we're a good fit, if we see eye to eye, because you're going to have to rely on you and, trust you and, all this type of stuff. So it's definitely difficult. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Stay on the line after the closing credits. We'll see if we can get the video back on, and we can wrap things up. And let's stay in touch and keep changing the world and helping the entrepreneurs.
Sounds great. Make it a great day, Mitch. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Accidental Entrepreneur. Opening and closing music written and performed by Howie Moskovich and made to order music. For information about Howie and his music services, please follow the link in our show notes. If you like the podcast, please tell others about us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and most of the other podcast directories. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review, and feel free to share our episodes on social media. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for the show, or you'd even like to appear as a guest, reach out to us by email at info@beinhackerlaw.com.
The Accidental Entrepreneur is hosted by Mitch Beinacker and produced by Beinacker Law. If you'd like to learn more about our business and legal services, you can find us on social media or visit our website at beinackerlaw.com. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our feed to be notified of all future episodes.